Hi, this is Brian Tudor, and I'm here with Bootcamp Digital CEO Krista Neher to talk to you about web analytics today. How are you doing, Krista?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks for this opportunity.
So, can you tell me a little bit about Bootcamp Digital and what you do?
Sure. Bootcamp Digital is a leading provider of social media and internet marketing solutions. So we do both training and strategic consulting in these areas. And obviously, web analytics is something that we really stress for measuring the impact of your marketing efforts, both in terms of on your actual website and how is that performing, but as well as integrating your metrics and results across all of your internet marketing efforts, which would include social media, pay-per-click advertising, things like that.
Bootcamp Digital has been open since the beginning of 2009, but how long have you been working with web analytics?
I actually first started using web analytics when I was running marketing for a internet startup company, which was probably in about 2007 sometime.
What are some of the analytics tools that you would recommend for a new analytics analyst or even a small business?
That's a good question, and I think you nailed it in asking the question in that the right tool for you really does depend on the size of your business and really how deeply you're going to go. The key is measuring things and is only part of the picture. The next part of the picture is what you're going to do with them. And I see a lot of companies that choose expensive and complex analytics packages that they really don't have the internal capacity to analyze, right? So if you're not going to take the time to analyze the results and create actionable business decisions from them, you could really be wasting your time. So that being said, to answer your question about the tools for companies to use, I think for most small businesses, something simple like Google Analytics is a great first start. It's really easy to hook up, and it gives you a great baseline to measuring. It's actually pretty robust now, so you can get a lot of information out of that. And for most small businesses, that's just about all you need. Yahoo also has a great analytics tool that's good for small businesses. If you're looking at an enterprise solution, most big companies use Omniture as a way to track and measure how they're doing across the web. So those would probably be the recommendations that I would have based on business size.
Those are some great tools. Now, can you take a look and let me know what some of the biggest problems that companies face with respect to analytics today?
Sure, that's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. I think that the biggest problems that a lot of companies face is not using analytics to deliver actionable results. So a lot of companies will, log on to their Google Analytics account or look at their reports from Omniture and, kind of hum and ha about them, but they're not using those results to actually drive changes in their business practices. And I think the point of measuring and the point of analyzing is to make better business decisions. Why else are you doing it? And I think that's where a lot of companies go wrong is, especially large companies that aren't selling online, they're definitely not as disciplined in how they approach analytics. E-commerce sites are the best sites to learn from when it comes to advanced approaches to both what to measure as well as how to interpret it and then how to use that to drive business results. And so I think those are kind of like the three steps that a business needs to think about when they're looking at analytics. So the first is, what am I going to measure? And then the second question is, okay, what does that tell me and what am I learning about my business? And then the third question is, what am I going to do about that? And a lot of businesses don't take the time to get to step number 3. And so I think the biggest problem that a lot of companies have is driving actionable results from their analytics.
So you do social media and internet marketing solutions. How do you handle a client that does not implement analytics, and what are some of your recommendations?
Yeah, so, one of the things is, that, as I mentioned earlier, the companies that are great at this are the people who are selling stuff online because they know that a small change can mean millions of dollars of difference of sales for them. Smaller and medium-sized businesses are much harder to sell on the concept of analytics. The reality is, though, analytics isn't just about taking a look at what happens when people come to your site. It helps you to measure the effectiveness of everything you're doing on the web, whether that's social media, some sort of paid advertising, your search marketing efforts. So really, what we try to encourage companies to do is to use analytics to measure their overall internet marketing and to really drive those into their decision making. So, for example, if we worked with someone on setting up a blog, what we would encourage them to do is in their first month, look at all of the different blog posts that they posted. Where did the traffic come from on the blog posts? Which posts were the most popular? What do those have in common? Right? And that will help them refine their blog content by analyzing what was good and bad about what they had done to date. So that's typically what we recommend companies do in terms of analyzing some of their web results at a fairly basic level. A lot of organizations say they don't have the time to do analytics, and I think really the question is, do you want to be successful or not? So if you're not really that interested in driving web traffic and it's not a focus area for you, sure, don't worry about it. But if you want to be successful with your internet marketing, analytics is the number one way that you are going to get there, because that's what's going to help you refine and improve over time. Doing the same wrong thing over and over again is not going to drive business results. So analytics is the only way to know what's working and what's not working and where you're losing people. And if you don't take the time to implement those things, you probably won't be successful, unless it's by accident. And so, especially for e-commerce companies, I think a lot of businesses jump to marketing and traffic generation without fully analyzing their website to begin with. I met with an e-commerce company that sells millions of dollars a year on the web, and they had told me they weren't actually checking their analytics at all. And I asked them why not, and they said it had never really crossed their mind. They knew it was an opportunity. And I said, well, you can spend your money on social media marketing to try and get more traffic to your site, or SEO, which they historically have spent a lot of money getting traffic. I said, but unless you're analyzing what happens once people get to your website, you don't know what your abandonment rate is. You don't know what your conversion rate is. And most businesses could make more profits by improving their conversion rates on site, or lowering their dropped cart rates than they can by looking for new customers. So analytics will oftentimes tell them where the problems are with their website, and fixing those gets them more business faster. So usually when companies are making an investment in the web in any way and they don't want to do analytics, I would typically suggest that they spend their money somewhere else, because obviously it's not that important to them.
Great. That's an amazing explanation. What do you think are some of the challenges that the analytics industry faces?
That's a great question. I think, one of the biggest problems with analytics right now is, how do you trace the full value of your marketing efforts back to something measurable versus consistently giving value to the last click? So if you think about how most companies are measuring their success on the web, or their marketing efforts, whether it's through social media or some sort of other paid or earned media online, typically the number one way they measure it is, did someone click, and then did they buy after they clicked? Seems logical. Well, the reality is that on average, it takes somebody 5.6 site visits before they make a purchase. So think about that. If I have to visit a website on average 5.6 times before I buy something, and you're only giving sales credit to whatever that last click happens to be before I make that purchase decision, you're really not correctly attributing all of the different factors that led to that purchase. So an example of this is, maybe I follow a certain company on Twitter, and so I'm aware of them through their Twitter marketing efforts. And then I'm somewhere else reading a blog, and I see a paid ad show up. And the ad has a special offer. So I click on that ad because it has a special offer, and I end up making a purchase. Based on web analytics, you would give 100% attribution to that ad of driving my sale. But the reality is, I already had a relationship and had built trust with the company through their efforts on Twitter. And so purchase is not typically something that happens in an instant one time. It's a purchase cycle, right? So it starts with awareness, and then you get in the consideration set, and so on and so forth. So I think the biggest challenge really for analytics is figuring out better ways to attribute the role that every single one of your marketing touch points has, versus taking the easy way out and using the last click approach to analytics.